भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः सुष्ठुवागुंसस्तनूभिः यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ओम शांति शांति शांति। The book. We covered up to mantra 4. From mantra 5 to 8, he is going to talk about the practice for meditation. The beauty of the Upanishad is, in all other textbooks, meditation you will find coming only right at the end. They do not start with the meditation. Here, 3 verses he is going to spend on the technique, the practice of meditation. Mantra 5. We start with mantra 5. Mantra 5 reads, Vivikta deshe cha shukasanastah suchishmagriva shirasha shariraha atyashramasta sakalendriyani niruddhya bhaktya swagurum pranamya hritpundarikam virajam vishuddham vichintya madhye vishadam vishokam. This is one mantra. In a solitary place, seated in an easy posture, clean, with neck, head and body erect, established in the highest ashrama of life, having controlled all senses, saluting one's own guru with devotion, meditating on the lotus of the heart in the center, untainted, very pure, clear, sorrowless. And then he is going to continue to mantra 6. Inconceivable, unmanifest, infinite forms. He will continue. He just leaves it halfway through here. Hritpundarikam virajam vishuddham vichintya madhye vishadam vishokam. And then the other 2 sentences of the next mantra puts together is the upon what you meditate. First is talking about meditation. Then he is going to talk about on what you meditate. What do you meditate upon? On the Hritpundarikam, that which is at the lotus of the heart. Vishuddham, pure. Vishokam, sorrowless. Now you need to meditate on these. Whatever that is, we will see when we go there. How do you meditate on all this? We will see when we go there. You know, meditation means repeat a mantra. Chanting a mantra is what we know as meditation. Now, what he talks as meditation, we'll go there. Now, first he is talking about the practice. Rarely you find Upanishad giving a practice. Rarely you find Upanishad giving a spiritual practice. Kaivalya Upanishad gives meditation as a practice. meditation here is the single pointed concentration. Meditation here is a single pointed concentration. Now, there is something called meditation where you focus, where you keep your focus on something. You keep your focus on a deity, chant the name of the deity, sing the glories of the deity, which is also a kind of meditation. Here, he is not talking about that kind of a meditation. He is talking about a single pointed concentration. Technically, it is called Nididhyasana Dhyanam. Technically, it is called Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana is what you do after Shravana and Manana. How do you know this? How do you know this is Nididhyasana Dhyanam? Nididhyasana Dhyanam, because he has already said this very clearly. Established in the highest ashrama of life. Atyashramastha. Established in highest ashrama of life. We have seen this any number of times, the 4 ashramas of life. The ashrama means order. The 4 orders of life, the 4 stages in life. Order means one follows the other sequentially. Order means one follows the other. Brahmacharya ashrama, grihastha ashrama, vanaprastha ashrama, and sannyasa ashrama. Established in the highest order of life means established in sannyasa ashrama. So yeah, established in sannyasa ashrama means what? Established in sannyasa ashrama means 2 things. He has done all the preparatory practices and has done enough Shravana and Manana to come to the Nididhyasana stage. A person in the Nididhyasana stage is in the highest order of life. The highest order of life, what we nowadays we call as sannyasa ashrama. Sannyasa ashrama, not ochre robe sannyasi. Not the ochre robe. The moment you wear an ochre robe, you don't become a sannyasi. What is the sannyasa ashrama? Shravana is done enough. And what Shravana has done, enough Mananam is also done. So the Shravana and Manana has brought about a conviction. Also the mind is fully cooperating. How the mind is cooperating? Karma yogas has been done already a lot. Lot of karma yoga has been done. Therefore, the likes and dislikes of the mind is almost negligible. 1 or 2 things. In fact, just 2 things. Just 2 things. What are the 2 things? Moksha, serving the Guru. There is no mind doesn't think of anything else other than these 2. Moksha and serving the Guru. Ippala serving the Guru more of an emotional attachment, or bondage. It is not coming out of any gratitude or understanding. That is also another kind of emotional baggage. That is also kind of another emotional bondage. So, what he calls as Atyashramastha, established in the highest order of life. What is established in the highest order of life? Established in sannyasa ashrama. What is sannyasa ashrama? A person who is established in the quality called sannyasa. A person established in sannyasa. He is not debating whether I should become a sannyasi or not. He is not debating what will happen to me if I take up sannyas, what will happen to my family. He is not asking, he is not worried, he is not asking these questions, he is not worried about all these things. For he is well established. In a solitary place, seated in an easy posture, clean, with head and body erect. These disciplines is what exactly in the Bhagavad Gita Krishna says in chapter 6. In chapter 6, when he talks about Dhyana Yoga, where he talks about the practice of meditation, he refers exactly to the same discipline. Solitary place. Kutama ukandirukka mudiyadhu. Kutama you can't do meditation. 100 people, 1,000 people sitting, being together, meditation will not. Even two fellows sitting together itself is a burden. Even the other person itself is an unnecessary burden and intrusion about this meditation. So solitary place, meaning there is no other solitary place. There is no other human being. Nothing. Mosquitoes will be there, snakes will be there, tigers will be there, lions will be there. They don't disturb you because they just keep doing what they have to do. So, solitary place means no other, absence of human being. Because for one human being, disturbance is from, for one human being, disturbance comes from another human being only. Therefore, solitary place, no other beings. Beautifully he says. Seated in an easy posture. Sukhasanastaha. The Sukhasanastaha, Patanjali takes the Sukhasana and he goes into elaborate details in the yoga system. The word Sukhasanastaha. How you should sit, it should be, when you are sitting, it should give you some sukham. That's all posture means. Sukha asana. The posture that you sit must give you some sukham. It should be relaxing. That's all. Should be relaxing means you have to train your body to relax. In any posture, the natural tendency of the body is to be fidgety. When I say natural tendency of the body is to be fidgety, is because of the very nature of the association with the mind for a long period of time. Body also becomes fidgety, moving all the time. Can't, there are people who have seen, when they sit, they will be constantly going like this, or the legs will be some physical movement. Can't sit still. So it's a practice. It's a practice to sit. It's a practice to sit still. And once you practiced it enough, it starts giving you sukham. So whatever posture that has brought about the sukham in you, sit in that posture. And how you should sit? Neck, head, and body erect. Neck, head, and body erect. Now, he is talking about preparing the environment. He is talking about preparing your body. Are able to follow what all goes into meditation? You just just go into a place and start meditating. It won't work like that. It doesn't work like that. So you need to prepare the environment. You need to prepare the body. Lighter you feel, better is the posture. That is why they eat half stomach. Most of them don't eat only. The day they want to meditate for a long time, they stop. They stop eating, because more lighter you are, better is the focus. More lighter you are, better is the focus. You can't have a full course meal and then go for meditation. You can't. It needs a sukha, which needs a lightness in the body. Body feels light when it doesn't have much to digest. I am sure we are not going to do any of this. That is why we are taking the liberty to talk about all this. And if you are, I'm sure nobody is going to sit and practice any of this. And if anybody is practicing now, don't worry, you are making a blunder. You are making a mistake. So don't try to practice all this. Easy posture, clean. Clean indicates a purity that you have attained. Clean indicates the state of purity. That is clean. Purity, cleanliness means it is external as well as internal. There has to be that internal cleanliness, and there has to be that external cleanliness. External cleanliness to some extent. Internal cleanliness 100%. For the disturbance to the mind comes from the internal dirt. So you ensure that it is clean. Clean means minimum clusters. That's what clean means. Clean means what? Minimum things around is what clean is. More number of things, less unclean. So what is cleanliness? Less and less and less. When desires are becoming less and less and less, you are becoming more clean. You are becoming cleaner and unclean. Atyashramastha, established in the highest order of life. So before you try meditation, you need to ask yourself, are you in the highest order of life? If you are not belonging to the highest order of life, you should not get into meditation. This is Upanishad, Kaivalya. This is Kaivalya Upanishad. Who is qualified to do that? The person in the highest order of life will do this. If you are not in that highest order, you should not attempt any of these practices. Saluting one's own guru with devotion. Saluting one's own guru. Swagurum pranamya bhaktya. Swagurum, one's own guru. One's own guru. In no other place in meditation, they talk about Swagurum Pranamya. Only Kaivalya talks about it. They just say meditation, mantra, matra, amatra, and all that. They will never talk about Swagurum Pranamya. Only here you find there is a mention of devotion to the saluting one's guru with devotion. It means what? Preliminary necessary conditions for meditation in an highest ashrama of life. Swagurum bhaktya pranamya. Third, sakala indriyani nirudhya. having controlled all senses. Having controlled all senses. Having controlled all senses, it means what? You should be having absolute indriya control, sense control. You should be having absolute sense control. You should be having a Swagurum. Swaguru means what? A guru to whom you have gone and did the Shravana and Manana and all that. That is what Swaguru means. It's not that you just picked up self-management books, self-help books, and you have dropped your desires and you start meditating. It doesn't work like that. Swagurum Pranamya. What does Swaguru means? Swaguru means the guru you go to for doing this Shravana and Manana. A guru who doesn't help you for Shravana and Manana is not a guru. He just gives. See, there are gurus who just give casual instructions. They just say, do this, and they go away. And then rest of the lifetime, you don't even get to, rest of your lifetime, you don't get to even meet that person. That person doesn't become your, that person doesn't become your guru. I met him, sir, when I was a child, and he told me I should do this. And then what happened? He went his way, you went your way. You never crossed each other after that. And he is your guru. That's not a guru. Guru means, Swaguru means the guru from whom you did this Shravana and Manana. Secondly, you can't do Shravana, Manana from very many gurus. It has to be one. Why it has to be one? Because you experiment with very few. And then you align your personality with one, and then that's it. You don't refer, you don't go back to anybody else after. You don't do 2-3 things simultaneously at the same time. Yeah. You can't have a guru who's promoting rituals at one time, and you can't have another guru who's condemning rituals. So you will neither be here nor there. Are you able to follow? People get so mixed up. They do like a chivda kind of thing. They do. Swagurum Pranamya. It means what? The Shravana Manana itself is very confusing. The Shravana Manana itself will be very, very confusing. Why the Shravana Manana itself will be very, very confusing? And today, the number of gurus that is available is, I said, YouTube. They tell you such a, how can you, no sir, this I'm trying to explain, it just doesn't work out like that. It is a waste of time, leave it. No sir, this is important, that is important, it has to be useless. It is. You go there, 25 gurus talking about the same thing. Beyond a point, it becomes an entertainment. After a point, it is just an intellectual entertainment, that's all. Or not knowing what else to do, you keep going from, not knowing what else to do, you keep going from one to the other. Kaivalya Upanishad says, Swagurum Pranamya. One guru, and you are stuck with that one guru, and that's it. So, what are the preliminary conditions for meditation? All senses are under complete control. See, when they say senses are under complete control, the natural urges of the senses is under control. You are hungry, but then that hunger will not disturb you. You are thirsty, that thirst will not disturb you. You are sleepy and you don't sleep. This is senses under complete control. Yeah. You can close the eyes and stop the sight. Sound comes, no. What to do to the sound? You can't. You can't plug your ears like that. What do you do to the sound? What do you do to the smell? You can't block your nose. You can't block, yeah. Maybe eyes you can close, mouth you can close. What can you do to the skin, the sound and the smell? Even that is under control. That person is fully qualified for meditation. Second qualification for meditation is established in sannyasa. Only the person who is established in the highest ashrama, in the highest order of life, is fit for meditation. I'm just repeating. Highest order of life means in sannyasa. Sannyasa means left it for good. Sannyasa means having left something for good. That is sannyasa. It's not a temporary leaving. It is not that you say, okay, I'm just going there. In 2 months, I will come back and take it back. Sannyasa means leaving something for good. Nyasam, leaving. Some for good. Well left. Yeah, the cricket madri. Well left. Leave it so that there is no contact between you and that afterwards. Are you able to follow? Your medium of contact to anything is through desires. Sannyasi means contacting without a desire. And you do not know what it is to contact without a desire. For all your contacts is driven by desire only. All the contacts are driven by the desire. And sannyasi means the contact minus desire. He is a sannyasi. So, having controlled all senses, established in the highest ashrama of life, saluting one's own guru with devotion. In relationship to Guru, it is always devotion. It is never understanding. It is devotion to Guru. It is not understanding. You only say, I am devoted to him. You never say, I understand. That is devotion. Devotion means a surrender, not an understand. Try to remember this. With reference to a guru, it's never about understanding. For the Shishya takes the stance that I cannot understand, full stop. After that, what do? You only have devotion. You only have devotion. You only surrender. The moment you have understood, you become that. After that, where is devotion? The moment you have understood, you become that. After that, there is no devotion. So devotion is always in relation to that which is not understandable. And with reference to the Guru, you always say, in relationship to the Guru, you always say, I can only be devoted to the Guru. I can never understand the Guru. Having well prepared like this, what will you meditate upon? The mantra Guru Puraran Pata, he is not giving any mantra. 15 qualification, 15 qualities he gives. 15 indicative definitions he gives. And what are the indicative definitions? That is initially it is only the preparatory part is not very interesting. What is very interesting is the preparation. And what do you meditate upon? First thing is Hrit Pundarikam. What is Hrit Pundarikam means? Hrit Pundarikam, lotus of the heart. Virajam, untainted. Vishuddham, very pure. Vishadam, clear. Vishokam, sorrowless. Every aspect of life, everything that you encounter in life, it is only divine. There is nothing other than divine. That's all. There is nothing that exists. There is nothing that exists other than divine. The self is described as untainted. Where there is duality, there is a taint. Only when there is two, it gets tainted. You need something other than that to come and taint it. Where there is no duality, nothing can taint the self. So in that sense, it is untainted, very pure. There is nothing else to contaminate it. What it means is there is no other thing. There is no other thing which can contaminate, disturb it. No agitation, no sorrow, no suffering. No agitation, no sorrow, no suffering. No agitation, no sorrow, no suffering, because sorrowless, he is saying, no, Vishokam. I'm explaining what is that Vishokam means. Sorrowless. Sorrowless means no agitations. You have a desire, you will be agitated. If you are agitated, there is a desire. That's all, the formula. It doesn't matter good desire, bad desire, right desire, wrong desire, beneficial desire, harmful desire. It doesn't matter. As long as there is a desire, you will be agitated. You will be disturbed. So in contrast to the experiences of sorrow that arises out of desire, he says there is no shoka, there is no sorrow. Clear, very pure, clear. Very pure, clear means the illumination is bright. whatever it illumines it so completely. Whatever it illumines it so completely. And these are all the properties that you have to use for meditation. Sannyasi will be able to do all this. We think meditation means mantra, no? Chumma dramatically we also say Om, 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 Matra, Amatra, all that. And you actually thought that is what? That is what meditation is also. He is not saying any of these things. These constant focusing on these attributes is what? Is what meditation is. What is it? The illuminator. Vishokam, Virajam, Hritpundarikam. Like a mantra, you don't chant all this. Like a mantra, you don't keep repeating. Okay, this week I will use Hritpundarikam, Hritpundarikam. You don't chant that. Next week, Vishokam, Vishokam, Vishokam. You don't chant all that. You sit with your eyes closed and that's it. These things is what? Is that this is called Nididhyasana. This is called meditation. That is why this Upanishadic meditation and all cannot be demonstrated. How it can be done, it cannot be shown. Mantra, matra, amatra can be shown. Keep a mala or keep a count, keep something, all that can be shown. Clear? Chant 108 times, chant 1008 times, a number, a fixation, a sound, all that is not the meditation that he is referring to here. Sitting with neck, body and erect, what would you do? Virajam, Vishokam, Hritpundarikam. I'm just continuing into mantra 6 also. I'm just continuing into mantra 6. Achintyam avyaktam ananta rupam Shivam prashantam amrutam brahmayonim Tadadi madhyanta vihinamekam Vibhum chidananda rupam adbhutam. One by one we'll see. I will explain. Idudha beautifully. And then verse number 7 also he continues. Verse number 7 also he continues into the meditation. And then verse number 8 onwards he starts saying he is that, he is that, he is that. So 5, 6, 7 meditation. Now we have prepared now. Now what have we done? We are sufficiently prepared. And Nididhyasana meditation. And what is the Nididhyasana meditation that we are going to have now? We are going to do. First time you are hearing all this, no? Yeah, first time you are hearing all this. You have never heard these kind of things before. Okay, what to do now? He is not calling this as manana. He is not calling this as a disciplines of manana. He is calling this as meditation. What is it? Inconceivable. Achintyam. Mantra 6. Beautiful mantra. Achintyam, Avyaktam, Anantarupam, Shivam, Prashantam, Amrutam, Brahmayonim, Adi, Madhya, Anta, Vihinam. Without beginning, middle, end, Ekam, one, Vibhum, all pervading, Chidanandam, knowledge, bliss, Arupam, formless, Adbhutam, wonderful. இதை வச்சு என்ன மெடிடேட் பண்ண முடியும்? That is our problem. இதெல்லாம் வச்சுட்டு what are we to meditate about? What are we to meditate on these things? What is the Brahman that you are wishing to attain? What is it that you are asking for as moksha? See, when you say, I want moksha, I want liberation, I want moksha, I want liberation, What is it that you are asking for? These are all the things that you are asking for. Inconceivable. Inconceivable means the body, the mind, the intellect do not have the capacity to know that. Inconceivable means that. Inconceivable means the body, the mind, the intellect cannot know that. So many things we have not known, sir, but we have found the telescopes and microscopes, and we have started seeing all that. Similarly, can we do something and see Brahman? Because telescope and the microscope is an extension of your eyes only. If eyes can't see, whatsoever you see through the telescope, there is that which is making the eyes to see. That is Brahman, which the eyes cannot. See. Inconceivable. It is the subject, not the object of experience. The subject is inconceivable. The subject is inconceivable. The object is conceivable. The subject is inconceivable. Avyaktam, unmanifest. That which is manifest only exists. Unmanifest means doesn't exist. Avyaktam means unmanifest. The manifest world of plurality can be seen. I'll explain all these one by one, and then we'll see what is the meditation in this. I'll explain that. Beauty, I'll try to cover as much as possible. Avyaktam, unmanifest. The manifest is what you see. The Vyaktam is what is seen. The Avyaktam is not seen. The wise sees the Brahman as the supreme unmanifest reality, not the manifest world of plurality. And the manifest world of plurality is a superimposition upon Brahman. Manifest world of plurality is a superimposition upon Brahman. Ananta Rupam, infinite forms. Infinite forms means you given that you are seeing a form. You accept that you are seeing a form. What is it? That is also, what is it? That is also Brahman. Infinite forms. Some forms are God, some forms are not. Those forms can't be God, sir. How can the terrorist form be God? Saintly Ramana Maharshi form is God, understandable. Krishna form as God is understandable. Yeah. In the if you are a devotee of Rama and if Allah comes in your dreams, you will get a heart attack. If Muhammad comes in your dream, you will get a heart attack. Stanch Vaishnava dream. Shiva comes now, he will commit suicide. Why? Because God cannot be in that. God cannot be in that form. Infinite forms. God is in one. God is in only one particular form. Shivam. Shivam means auspicious. Shivam means auspicious. Lord Shiva, adutha versala is going to talk about Lord Shiva in the next verse, and the following verse is going to talk about Vishnu. All that is going to now Shivam in the sense of auspiciousness. Auspicious means, what does auspicious means? Holy, no? Auspicious means holy. Everything is auspicious. Prashantam, perfectly calm. Okay, sir, in the quality illa theriyum sir engalukku. Go to the next. Go to the next mantra. You know this. You know these things. For a sannyasi, these are all the things that is. For a sannyasi, these are the things that keeps his single pointedness going on, his meditation going on. These are all the things that keeps his single pointedness going on. For us, we cannot connect with any of this. Amritam, immortal. Mritam means death. Mritam is death. Amrita is deathless. Mritam means death. Amritam means no death, deathless. Deathless means changeless. We have seen this any number of times. Any number of times you have seen this, but still you can talk about it any number of times also. Deathless means changeless. In and through the changes, he is seeing something which is changeless. In and through the changes, he is seeing something which is changeless, and he is identifying with that changeless. Kaivalya Upanishad is the smallest Upanishad. There is only 1 or 2 mantras like this. You go to Kathopanishad, you go to the bigger Upanishads, every 10 mantras, every 5 mantras, list like this will keep reappearing again and again and again. You edit all that, the Upanishad will come to only 3-4 mantras. You edit all the Upanishads will come only to 3-4, because it just keeps repeating the same thing again and again. Amritam, immortal. Brahma Yonim, the womb of Lord Brahma. Brahma is the creator. He is the creator of Brahma. Brahma Yonim. Each and everything he takes up, one word he takes up, and in Bhagavad Gita he says, I am that. In Bhagavad Gita he says, I don't know whether you remember all this. In Bhagavad Gita he comes. Brahma is the creator. Aham bija pradapita, he says. I am the seed-giving father. I placed the seed in Brahma, and Brahma created the world. One word he takes and he spreads it over in 700 verses. It's all in one. So packed for so much the reality, so much the truth is packed for dhyana, for meditation. Womb of Brahma. Lord Brahma is said to be the creator from whom creation has merged. Brahma is the creator. And who created Brahma? I created Brahma, as he says, as he said in the Bhagavad Gita. Brahman is the very source of the creator. Therefore, it is known as Brahma Yonim. Adi Madhya Anta Vihinam. Adi Madhya Anta Vihinam means no beginning, no middle, no end. Just go into B. Adi Madhya Anta Vihinam. You can just get into that. Yeah, you can get into that. It neither has a beginning nor an end. If there is no beginning or no end, there cannot be anything in middle also. It existed before time. That's what it means. It existed before time. Time may come to an end at some point of time, but it will still continue to exist. Ekam. One. There exists nothing other than the Brahman. Ekam. Ekam. One. Vibhum. All pervading. When all these qualities are said, and then when they are saying you are that. See, what is Nididhyasana meditation? It is not saying Ekam somewhere, Vibhum somewhere. It's not all that. It is saying, I am this Ekam. I am Vibhum. I am Adi Madhya Anta Vihinam. Are you able to follow what is meditation now? All these you keep saying, I am. Other meditation. I am Shivam. I am Prashantam. So whenever anything inauspicious comes, you disconnect from that and say, not this. Not this. Why? Because I am Shivam. Are you able to follow what meditation is? Yeah, I wanted to say all this at the end, but then the list is like, I can see the fatigue already. Yeah, I can see the fatigue already. I know the LR video off pantu ukandanga. I don't know who I am talking to. What is the point in talking to these names? I don't understand. Blank screen and imagine like this. Yeah. Imagine. Keep listening to it like this. Achintyam, Avyaktam, Arupam. What are things that he is talking? And I look at the screen. It's so blank. At least I am meditation. Oh, Bharat, you came online now. At least I'll see my clear. Because what is this Nididhyasana meditation? It is not talking about Nididhyasana meditation of a sannyasi, of a Upanishadic student is not meditating, remembering these entities as something different. Repeating that I am this. That is the meditation here. Identifying and saying, I am this. Are you able to follow? I am Atma Brahma is the Upasana. I am Atma Brahma is the I am Atma, Brahma is the Upasana. In this I am Atma, Brahma, Upasana, what are all the things that you have to remember about your own self? What are all the things that you have to keep remembering again and again and again? Shivam, Vibhum, Ekam, Amritam, Prashantam. These are all the things that you have to do as I am Atma, Brahma. The beauty of this is when you are repeating it like this. The beauty of this is when you are repeating it like this, you are identifying with that. And whatsoever you identify with, you become that. In Nididhyasana meditation, it is not God is Ekam. You don't say God is Ekam. You don't say God is Arupam. You don't say God is Adi Madhya Anta Vihinam. You don't say God is, God is, God is. You say I am this. That is the meditation here. Are you able to follow? Which I thought I will discuss it at the end. I thought I will discuss all this at the end, but then I thought this quality, and he is not going to end. Another 2 classes, these qualities only will go, because so much he is talking. So much he is talking. Adi Madhya Anta Vihinam Ekam Vibhum. All pervading. You are not even room pervading. You are not even chair pervading. And what is this? What is this all pervading? Yeah, are you able to follow? You are not even room pervading. You are not even this chair pervading. And then to say, I am all pervading. Beautiful is this. Vibhum. All pervading. All pervading means you cannot escape divine. That is all pervading. The pot cannot escape clay. For clay is all pervading over the pot. Are you able to follow? All pervading means there is no place where divine is not. Just as the pot cannot escape the clay. Just as the pot cannot escape the clay, you also cannot escape the divine. So, divine is all pervading. So, when the divine is all pervading, you can say divine is all pervading in the world outside, or you can say each and every cell in you is divine. When you say each and everything in you is divine, what do you become? Then each and every part of you is divine. Each and everything in you is divine. Each and every cell in you is divine. You become divine. This is meditation in the true sense. This is meditation in the Upanishadic sense. That is why the Upanishadic master will laugh at you, will shout at you, will make a mockery of your closed eye meditation. Sitting with the eyes closed and chanting and all that. He says all this doesn't come anywhere near meditation, because look at the Upanishad. Seated in a solitary place, having prepared physically, mentally, psychologically, and all that, having well prepared, what are you meditating upon? Shivam, Vibhum, whatever we are discussing. Chidanandam, Chit Anandam. The pure consciousness, the knowledge and bliss. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Chidanandam. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat means existence. Sat means existence. Existence gives a meaning, existence gives an implication that, like a piece of stone, a piece of wood. Piece of stone would also exist. They are also existing. But then they are jada. They don't have consciousness. Here he says it is chit. It has chit. It is conscious. Consciousness is there. But we are also existing with consciousness, no sir. The third thing, Ananda, bliss. The Chit and the Sat and Chit we also have, but we don't have Ananda. There, all the three combined: existence, knowledge, and bliss. Chidananda. Arupam. Formless. Arupam. Formless. Adbhutam. Wonderful. It has to be wonderful. It has to be so wonderful. Or Pagra form looks so wonderful, no? Just a limited form itself looks so adbhutam. Yeah. What in Kathopanishad he calls as Ascharya. What in Kathopanishad he calls as Ascharya, which Krishna quotes in the Bhagavad Gita of chapter 2 verse 29. Kathopanishad says that Ascharya, Ascharya, Ascharya. You can talk about it as a wonder. You can hear it as a wonder. You can see it as a wonder. And the wonderment of all wonderment is, even after seeing, hearing, talking, you still don't know it. You still don't know. The wonderment of all wonderment is Ascharyavat pashyati kaschitenam, Ascharyavat vadati taiva chanyaha, Ascharyavat chainam anya shrunoti, Shrutva enam veda na chaiva kaschit. The wonderment of all wonderment is what? You still don't know what it is. It is adbhutam, it is. Adbhutam means where the intellect is baffled. Wonderment comes when the intellect is baffled, when the intellect is wonderstruck. That is adbhutam. Yeah. Modern day context, wow feeling. You should get that. You should get that. Correct? That is the word, no? Wow. You should feel. You should say. You look at it, and the intellect goes aghast. The eyes opens wide, and then it says, "Wow, wow!" Moment, no? Wow, adbhutam. Wonderment comes when your insignificance is realized. You experience wonderment when you recognize your insignificance. Whatever aids you to recognize your insignificance gives you ascharya, wonderment. To put it very simply, you sit in front of the ocean, you can never get bored, no? You can keep looking at it and you will never get tired, you will never get bored. Why? Because you in front of that vastness, you recognize your insignificance. You look at the sky, littered with stars. You look at the sky, stars, littered with stars. In the totality of all that, what is the earth? In that earth, what are you? In that earth, what are you? And your problems, your worries, your anxieties, what is all that in relation to that? In relation to the total, it doesn't even exist. But for you, it is. What a big ego. The fly told the elephant, I'm sitting on you from this morning. I'm sitting on, I told the story. Remember? The fly told the elephant, I'm sitting on you from this morning and you have been carrying me the whole day. Tell me, whenever you are tired, I will fly away. Elephant turned back and said, now that you spoke, I recognized you are sitting on me. Otherwise, I didn't even know your existence. The ego of the fly is very heavy, is very huge, it believes that it can be a burden to the elephant. Yeah. Exactly the opposite of this is Adbhutam. Exactly the opposite of this is Adbhutam. What is meditation here means? Meditation here means Nididhyasanam. Meditation here means identifying with all these and saying, I am this. That is why whenever Vedanta says, I am God, and you think it is saying, you are Lord Krishna. They are not saying, you are Lord Krishna. How can you be Shiva? How can you be Vishnu? Upanishad is not saying that you are Shiva, you are Vishnu. Upanishad is saying what? Identify with this. Identify with these. You can't say properties. You can't say definitions. You can't say gunas. Identify with the reality. What is the reality? Whatever he is saying in end of verse 5, verse number 6 is going to continue in verse number 7, which I am not starting today. Which I am not starting today. I will continue the 7 in the next class. Now, to briefly say, in meditation, what are you supposed to do in meditation? In meditation, the subject-object division must cease to exist. That is meditation. Meditation means the subject-object division must cease to exist. The two must turn into one. You will not be able to know what is the subject and what is the object. That is meditation. Are you able to follow? Meditation means the subject-object distinction is now the subject-object division is very clear. In meditation, there is no such division. It's not that the subject is chanting, the subject chanting will get a benefit. In meditation, that is where even in the case of a very ordinary love in the world, we should become one, we should become one, we should become one, they say no. They hug so tightly that two bodies is a burden. Love means you should not exist as two separate bodies, correct? You should not exist as two separate bodies. It should be one. So what is meditation? The merger, the dissolution of not subject into object. The dissolution of subject and object. It is not the subject is going into object. It is not the object is coming into the subject. That two becomes, the two dissolves. This is meditation. Are you able to follow? If that two has to dissolve, what should happen? The subject also must recognize that it is infinite. The object also must be infinite. Then only both can merge. Are you able to follow? The subject must recognize that it is infinite. The object also has to be infinite, because infinite alone can merge with infinite. This infinite merging with infinite is what is called meditation. And what are all the various possible ways of explaining that it is infinite? What are all the various possible ways of explaining that it is infinite? He is explaining. That is why the Upanishadic meditation is completely different from what we hear in meditation class. What we hear as in meditation class or what we do as meditation is different from the Upanishadic meditation. Are you okay till now? I will start with this Upanishadic meditation again and continue in the next session. So I'll just quickly take those clarifications. Bharat. So meditation is not closing eyes, it's becoming aware. Meditation is becoming aware. Meditation is becoming aware, not sitting with the eyes closed. Why do we have to sit with the eyes closed? Is because sense control varna illam. Kanna tharandi ediyadu paatha, thought starts. When I open my eyes and see something, that object pulls me away. My thoughts run behind that. Therefore, I have to close my eyes. In the true sense of meditation, what he has already said as all the senses are under perfect control. He has gotten himself to the training. He has gotten himself to that level of training to do all this. Is it okay, Bharat? Somebody has to unmute Bharat.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Bharat.
I took the eyes as an example.
Yeah.
For senses, but what they're saying is that when you're saying in control,
yes,
all your senses are in control, which means all your sense organs which are there, right? Which means that you're right from breathing to everything must be under. So what is control?
Yes.
The idea was, so when you said that, the question I wanted to ask you was, how do you define control? Because I can stop seeing,
yes,
I can shut my eyes.
Correct. But
so,
yes.
So in control, meaning, what is it in control?
Control.
Which means,
yeah. Yes.
And then you become aware, it's fine. Because there is nothing else.
Correct.
But I'm not asking how to control.
Yes, what is control?
What is control?
Control.
Because there are so many people, so many saints who have done so much of tapas, meditation, and we are seeing so many things.
Yes.
So all of them want control or not, we don't know.
Yes. We don't know. Correct. We don't know. Now, what is control? What is control? stimuli enters you, the reaction mechanism is empty. The stimuli enters you, the reaction mechanism inside you is empty. What is the reaction mechanism inside? The mind. The mind is empty. Therefore, what happens? The stimuli just comes and dies as it were. The stimuli comes. Vital senses means stimuli it will take in. The sound will come, dies in an empty mind. The sight will come and dies as it were in an empty mind. Now, here comes the real control. What the intellect does is, it has decided that for X amount of predetermined time, there will not be any responses. Are you able to follow? It has predetermined for a period of time, there will not be any responses. That period of time can be half an hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours, the whole day. The Acharya here went into a 11-month period. For 11 months, he went and locked himself up in a 2x2 room. Nothing much can be done inside that room. What can you do there? Just spend himself, and now a predetermined period, you say there will not be any response. That is control. Lack of control means you don't decide the response. It is happening all by itself. Are you able to follow? It is happening all by itself. Control means what? For a period of time, let any sound enter. What makes me hear is Brahman, not what sound enters me. I don't register sound, I register Brahman. As it were, I'm just dramatizing it. What is control? Responses do not happen. That is control. Most of the people misunderstand control means regulating the stimuli. It is perfectly correct in the initial stages of growth. In the initial stages of growth, as we see in Bhagavad Gita and all, he talks about regulation of stimuli itself. Why? Because of the lack of control, the lack of development is so poor that he has to start from the control of the stimuli. In the true sense of the term, we don't call that as control at all. Why? Because I am forcefully doing something there. In Vedanta, control is not a force. Control is a natural existence. What is the natural existence? The sound and the rest of the stimuli enters you, it's an empty mind inside, as a result of which there is no response. Why? Because the intellect has decided not to, the intellect has taken a decision not to respond. The intellect's decision not to respond is what is called as control. It means two conditions are required. What? The intellect has to be that powerful. The mind has to be empty. Karma Yoga empties the mind. Are you able to follow? Karma Yoga empties the mind. Therefore, there is a perfect. For want of word, we have to use the word control. Because of the limitation of the vocabulary, we have to use the word control. What it is? The intellect deciding when to respond. That is control. Lack of control means intellect on one side is shouting, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. On the other side, it just keeps. The intellect is shouting, don't run behind the world, don't run behind the world, don't run behind the world. It is like, Adi RTO solra madri, it looks like as though it is talking to somebody else, not to you. And the mind and the senses keep running behind the world. Are you able to follow what is control? This is control. I'm not talking about how to control. I'm defining what is
control.
This is control. Is it okay, Bharat?
Yes.
This is control.
Control.
When you are doing this, what is happening? You are aware of the perceptions inside. You are aware of the perceptions. That's what they call as pure awareness. What is pure awareness? Awareness, you can't be aware of the pure awareness. It is not possible. So what is awareness here means? The awareness of the stimuli minus reaction. You see the aircraft, you hear the aircraft flying. You can follow the sound as much as you can. It means you are awareness means no reaction with it. Intellect is simply aware of the stimuli and there is no mind to interpret it. Again, I repeat. Stimuli comes in, it is the mind that interprets the stimuli. Control means the intellect is aware of the stimuli minus. So when you are aware of the stimuli minus the interpretation, it is called awareness. Again, I repeat. In meditation, what is happening? Awareness. What is awareness means? Registration of sound minus
reaction.
Minus interpretation.
Interpretation.
Minus interpretation. That interpretation is reaction.
Yeah.
That interpretation is what the mind has already started to. The mind has already started to react. So that is why we say awareness, 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 awareness. Or just to be aware, just to be aware. How can you just be aware? Mind cannot be aware like that. In an empty mind, you can be aware. If the mind is there, the reaction and response will happen even before you know what has happened.
Right. Correct.
Even before you know what has happened, the reaction and response happens. Therefore, in meditation, what happens? You will be aware. Awareness means what? The registration of perceptions, but no
interpretation.
But no interpretation. That's where very beautifully, very dramatically, see the tree as it is, they say. That is awareness. What is seeing the tree as it is? Clear. Seeing the tree as it is awareness. Watching the incoming breath and outgoing breath. You are not holding the breath. Huh? You are not holding the breath. Wonderful meditation it is. You just watch. Something is constantly going, coming, going, coming, going, coming. It becomes a meditation. It becomes a meditation by by itself. Now, you can't do it only for one thing like this, sir. This is the catch here. You can't just do it for 5 minutes in one. It becomes your lifestyle. It becomes your way of life. This is how you will live life. Which is what in the Kaivalya Upanishad that we studied just now, he is saying, a person who has in the highest order of life. Sannyasi who has reached the highest ashrama of life. For meditation is not a practice, meditation is a lifestyle. Meditation becomes a lifestyle thing. It is not. Meditation is a lifestyle. Meditation is not a practice that you go in and come out. What Swamiji calls as Shruti. No, he gives the example of Shruti.
Exact. Shruti, yes.
Swamiji gives the example of the Shruti. That
Karnataka
background, that background, it's there all the time. In
Yes,
and through so many things, that background is there all the time. That is meditation. That is just meditation in the Upanishadic. In the Upanishadic sense, that is what meditation is all about. Is it okay, Bharat?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have to.
No. Oh, this is.
No, like I say, sir, I can ask you another question, but it will take a long time. I'll probably reserve it for some other day.
Yes, please.
I was trying to relate the recently concluded yajna with the meditation.
Exactly. Yes.
Because there again,
Yes.
you're saying that when you perform yajna,
Yes.
it should be in the state of meditation.
Yes.
Because
exactly the same thing. Yajna karma, we do yajna karma so much that while in yajna karma, I become meditative. Karma goes on. Karma goes on. As karma goes on, I am more and more. I am more and more meditative in karma yoga itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Are able to follow? That is why he says, running away in the name of spirituality and all. Who taught you, Arjuna? He is asking.
Correct.
Who taught you, from where you got this idea that you have to run away and you have to escape and run away and expect to grow? How is it possible? For in this only you have to become meditative. In this you have to become meditative. Meaning what? You do it so much that the mind has become empty in Karma Yoga. The mind has become empty. Activity continues, no?
Exactly.
Some activity will continue. So what happens? Whatsoever activity you are in becomes Karma Yoga, becomes Yajna Karma, and one part of you is aware of. And one part of you aware of what? I am the. It is not that I am going to become divine. Upanishadic meditation is I am divine.
Yep.
That is Upanishadic Nididhyasana meditation. It is not that I am going to become divine or I am going to be a worshipper of divine. Bhakti Yoga says you will be a permanent worshipper of divine. You will be a permanent devotee of God. You will be a permanent worshipper of divine. Vedanta comes and says, it's not that you are going to be a permanent worshipper of divine. It's not that you are going to be a permanent devotee of divine. I am
the divine.
I am the divine. Correct. Although Upanishadic meditation. Are able to see the shift in understanding the depth to which it goes. It is not that you and divine, the segregation that you and divine are two is unacceptable.
It's unacceptable. Correct.
It is unacceptable. That's all. There are no two. You and divine are not separate. You are divine. Why? Because there exists nothing other than divine.
Correct.
See, when there is nothing that exists other than divine, how can you and divine be
different?
Meditation means constantly remembering this is what meditation is. That's where you find all the Upanishads, the same qualities will be spoken about again and again and again, saying, meditate on this, meditate on this. You'll be wondering, idhil ennatha meditation panna mudiyum? Yeah, what is there to meditate on? What is there to meditate on these things? Is it okay, Bharat?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Prasad. Then, now Prasad has a question. After sadhana, can it be an open eye meditation also through the other times apart from actual time of dhyana? In fact, this open eye meditation, closed eye meditation and all is a preparation for Nididhyasana meditation. In the Nididhyasana meditation that we are talking about, these open eye and closed eye, two different meditations don't exist at all. One part of you is
meditating all the time.
Correct. One part of you is meditating all the time. That's why dramatically they talk about it, no? In deep sleep, when you go and put your ears in Tyagaraja's heart, it will not lubbed up, and it will not go on. It will go. It will say Ram, Ram, even when he is in deep sleep, the heart will continue to say that only. It means what? It has that kind of single pointedness. Are you able to follow till now?
Yes, sir.
Nothing can disturb that single pointedness. That is meditation. Nothing has the power. Nothing has the power to disturb that single pointedness. That is meditation. The worst of the things, the best of the things can happen, but your single pointedness will not change, will not go. But then this open-eyed meditation and then closed-eye meditation and all that is a preparation for this Nididhyasana meditation. That's why I said there are two types of meditation. In the Upanishadic sense, meditation means slightly different, I said in the beginning itself. Is it okay, Prasad?
Yes, sir.
And also I said, first what you will be listening, even though only in the context of an Upanishad, when we are studying seriously, it can be discussed. Are you able to follow? Is it okay, Prasad?
Sure, sir. Yeah, thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah. Venkatachalam. Who realizes the reality? Is it the intellect, or is it the removal of ignorance and the self realizes itself? Self realizes itself. The self realizes itself. In Atma Bodha, what we are studying, very beautifully he says, the intellect gets a glimpse of it. The intellect gets a glimpse of it, and even before it can recognize what it is dissolved. So even intellect dissolves. In Atma Bodha that we are currently studying, I don't know, in the verse I will remember that verse. In Atma Bodha verse 15, 16 and all that, he's saying, through intellect you recognize, in intellect you recognize the Atman, he says. What he means is it's not the intellect recognizes it. It is not the intellect that is recognizing. Intellect gets a glimpse of it. Even before it can recognize what it is dissolved. It is therefore self realizes itself. Is it okay?
Yes, very good. Very good.
That is the real recognition, because the infinite alone can recognize itself. If anything finite says, I know infinite, it is a lie. Correct? If anything finite says, I have experienced the infinite, it is an absolute. Yeah. For a finite cannot recognize the infinite. The finite can say கூட சொல்லக்கூடாது. Finite should say, I am incapable. But the finite cannot say, I have recognized the infinite. That is why we say, if somebody comes and says, I saw God. நீங்க எல்லாம் வேதாந்தெல்லாம் நிறைய எல்லாம் சொல்றீங்க சார், பட் ஆனா எனக்கு அடிக்கடி God தெரியறாரே. Finite cannot recognize. அப்படியே கண்ணுல இல்ல சார், பட் அந்த ஃபீலிங்ல எனக்கு வருது. I am able to feel it. Finite cannot recognize infinite. If finite says, I know infinite, it doesn't know what it is. It doesn't know what it is saying. சரியா? Therefore, self only has to know itself. Only the infinite must know itself, and then only it is right cognition. Then only it is right understand. Is it okay? Last, with this I conclude. Svajnanam. Why infinite only alone can merge with infinite? For infinite includes many finite also. Svajnanam.
Yes, sir.
Siva Ajnanamnu பேர் வச்சிருக்கணும் இல்லையா? சிவ ஞானம்னு பேர் வச்சதுக்கு சிவ அஜ்ஞானம்னு பேர் வச்சிருக்கணும். நல்லா இருக்கும். See, she is laughing. She is so happy when she is so happy. அதுக்கோசரம் தான் சொல்றேன். சிவ ஞானம். Why infinite only can merge with infinite? Infinite includes many small numbers also. See, you have taken it just too mathematically. It has to be infinite only because mathematics la எவ்வளவு வரைக்கும் படிச்சிருக்கீங்க நீங்க? அதெல்லாம் தெரியாது சார், எல்லாம் கேட்டு மானத்தை வாங்காதீங்க. எப்பயோ படிச்சது, 35 years back படிச்சது. How do I remember?
Million.
In mathematics, calculus is a subject. You put that in, you put the limits. Calculus is the mathematics புரியணும்னா calculus தான் mathematics. இல்லையா? matrices, graph அதெல்லாம் maths கிடையாது. Trigonometry, calculus is what mathematics is. In mathematics, they put the limit. They put the limit. The limit they put is plus infinity to minus infinity. It means this side also it is infinite, this side also it is infinite. In the medium of infinity, so many things are happening. In the medium of infinity, so many things are happening. But what you have to understand is, infinity is not the end of numbers. After a while, what happens? The fellow starts believing, where does number end? Infinity, yeah. Infinity is not the end of numbers. It's not that you add all the numbers, the answer will be equals infinite. That is why even what you see as a finite is also infinite. Purida? What you see as finite is also infinite. Purnam adaha Purnam idam. That is Purnam. This is Purnam. What you call as finite is also infinite. Therefore, it is only infinite. There is no such thing called finite at all. The recognition of finite is ignorance. Purida? The recognition of finite is ignorance. ஏதாவது ஒன்று ஃபைனைட்னு பார்த்துட்டாலே immediately you can know that you are ignorant. So what is ignorance? இதெல்லாம் ஏதோ ஒன்று finite னு சொன்னாலே it is ignorance. Why? Because the reality is only infinite is, and you can't be a part of infinity. If you say you are a part of infinity, now you really don't know what? You have not even theoretically have conceived of infinity.
Sir,
Is it okay?
Okay.
sir,
Yes, Ganesh.
நீங்க சொல்றத பார்த்தாக்க only when you reach the divine state, realized state, it's going to happen.
Yes.
There you're going to see only divine.
Yes.
Only when you realize, you will be able to see only divine. Till such
Yes.
time, you will be seeing only ignorance.
Correct. Yes. Till
There's no
that
half.
time,
There's no halfway.
there's no halfway. There is no half rope and half snake.
Yes. So on the one hand, you see divine everywhere.
Correct.
Illana, you are ignorant. You see only ignorance.
Yes. I am ignorant now. I am imagining the reality to be permanent. இப்போ reality பத்தி பேசுறதெல்லாம் ஒரு ஸ்டேஜ்ல imaginary தான் beyond a point. For ignorance is the reality.
Yes.
Upon realization, exactly the ulta.
Till that stage, ignorance seems to be a reality.
Yes. That is why even a sannyasi also has traces of ignorance in him still. That is why he has to make an effort to say, I am that. No. With effort, he is saying, I am that. With effort, he is making an effort to say, I am divine. A realized person will not say, I am divine. Realized person says, just shut up. That's all. He says, don't talk. Anything about divine, don't. Anything about divine, don't talk.
Like we don't say we are ignorant, like that he will not say he is divine.
Correct. Correct. About God, don't talk. Yeah. With this story, I conclude. Before Buddha goes into a town, one of the disciples of Buddha will walk into the town, and then he says, Buddha is coming. Any questions can be asked except God. Any questions can be asked except God. Don't ask any question about God. Appa everybody will ask about God only. No? He is such a Manava. Don't ask any question about God. Why? Because God cannot be. You ask about God, he will stay silent. You ask about God, he will stay quiet. Why? Because to whom are you going to talk about God? What can you talk as God? This is Upanishadic level. Since we are discussing an Upanishad, we are discussing it at that level only. We have to maintain the discussion. Theoretically, we have to assume what? Or cinema பாக்குற மாதிரி இல்லையா? ஒரு சினிமால வந்து ஒரு ஹீரோ 300 பேர் அடிப்பாரு, அவருக்கு ஒண்ணுமே ஆகாது. We agree to all that, no? We accept all that, no? அந்த மாதிரி இத பார்த்துட்டு விட்டுறணும். Like that, we have to see this and leave it. அவ்வளவுதான். Why? Because the whole discussion is elevated to that level. So, what is ignorance? Recognizing something as finite is ignorance. I am limited nale adha ignorance. I am a limited, constricted, restricted human being radha ignorance. Are you able to follow? I am a limited, constricted, restricted being is ignorance. Aham Brahma Asmi is wisdom. சரியா? This Upanishadic meditation itself is a wonderful thing. And why we have to use the word meditation is because the subject-object duality has to go. It is not that you are worshipping somebody. It's not that you are thinking about somebody. It's not that you are worshipping about somebody. You are identifying with yourself. That is meditation. Upanishadic meditation, and you are identifying with yourself. Idalla I thought I will talk in the next class. I thought all this I will talk in the next class as Upanishadic meditation. Nikki, I just got into the Bharat initiated the discussion and Prasad carried me into this, and I was reserving it for the next week as to what is meditation in the context of Upanishad. Is it okay, Ganesh? Yeah. Venkatachalam, is it okay? Yeah, right. With this, we conclude for today and we continue whenever, I don't know, whenever we meet the next Kaivalya class, we continue.